This meeting is being recorded.
That was a pleasant voice.
Yeah, I wonder where that came from.
What was that?
I don't know.
Reverb.
Steve, you're in twice.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, I'm not sure why.
I think that's why we were getting the reverb.
There's
Yeah,
two of you today.
that's right.
Wouldn't that be handy to have
Because
two
one
of us?
Steve is not enough. Double the fun.
God, those commercials, Doublemint commercials. Throwback.
Good old days.
What can I say, Gordon? I'm old.
Oh, I feel you.
The amount of mind space that we have taken up commercials and stupid
Yes.
songs
Yes,
and stupid songs from commercials.
that is true that you can't shake once you rehear.
Yes.
Hi, Lynn.
Off camera, but up. Yep.
Cool. By the way, I got another notice about the June event, and how are we doing with that? What's the registration looking like?
Yeah, so not a lot, unfortunately. So that's why I sent out the other notice because we've only got, so it's really weird. And so there are two registrations, right? So, and I know Renee registered first, but Zoom has totally lost your information. So this is very concerning. However, PayPal has your information. And it's like, so I was just showing the committee we just met a little while ago. Here are all the PayPal registrations and here are all the Zoom registrations. So reconciliation needs to happen. And Zoom only lets you pull all of the information once a month, which is strange.
That's
So
weird.
bottom line is about 20. It's not enough. But the goal is to hit everybody almost every week because we know some people are on vacation, Mother's Day, graduations, all the things, vacation.
You got mine, right?
Probably.
Okay. Just want to make sure I registered.
You have mine?
Oh, so yes.
Mine.
Okay. All right. Hang on.
Well, we don't want to take up time today, but so I guess my question is, could some people have registered in Zoom and not paid yet, and then we don't know who they are?
So, and that's the reconciliation. So I have to take it one by one. So technology is a real pain.
Well, I don't understand though, when on Zoom webinars, you can look and see who's registered anytime.
Yeah. So I made this maybe it's my mistake. I made it a Zoom meeting instead of a webinar. And so with Zoom meetings, I can see the registrations. I don't know why Renee's isn't showing up, nor is Michelle's. So the initial registrations aren't showing up. But I'm going to work on it. So I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay, I think we have a quorum of people who said they're going to be there. Hi, Mike. Welcome. Let's dive in. First thing on the agenda was just a quick update on our meeting with Trisha and what was her name? Wiley. Help me, Rachel. What was the other woman's name? Katie Furman. Yes. So it was very pleasant. The upshot is they're appreciative of us. They want to work with us. I mean, we'll see what the action turns out to be, but the next step they suggested is for them to draft, they called it a permissions document. So to clarify, I think what it's going to be is to clarify how we can use the brand names. We'll see what it says. But I said I welcome that. We don't want to get crossed up. Send it over. We'll take a look, and I suspect it should be pretty vanilla, but we'll see what they said. And I'll obviously send that document out as soon as they send it over. And then Rachel, you want to update on what they said about the rally?
Yeah, so I sent a personal invitation to Trisha and Wiley, and it looks like my gut tells me they're going to do something. They have great things to announce.
Hmm.
So we said this is going to be a fireworks 15 minutes if they could do that. I still feel like there's some trepidation in the like recording option. Don't want to box them in any regard, just want them to be comfortable. And the spirit was we're in partnership with you. So I hope that came through.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds like they've got lots of product updates to announce having to do with the LPI and the workbook. And so we'll see what they have to say. Kind of cool.
Exciting.
Okay, next is Mighty Pro, or what is it called? Step to Mighty Pro, the Mighty Network
Path to Pro.
technology. Yeah, Path to Pro. Renee, you want to give a quick update on what we've been doing with that?
Yes. So, as you know, Mighty Networks is kind of where we're putting all our chips. And so we are scheduling a follow-up meeting. We've already met with them once. We're scheduling a follow-up just to verify, can we? And I know Mike and Lynn are both a little bit familiar. Well, Mike, I know definitely. Lynn's wife is very familiar with Mighty. But we want to make sure that it's just going to be able to house the resources that we want to, or if not, how can we use it as the front end to access those? So we're still working on that, but it's looking good, and I'm hopeful that it will be a really great tool for the community that doesn't really exist in anything that we have right now.
Looks pretty cool on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the cost is $3,800 if we sign up after a trial. So this is kind of my thought is just before the rally, we would sign up with a new email for the trial. Renee had already done a trial, but that expired. So we would sign up with a new email for the trial. We'd get an instance set up, do some screenshots so we could share those at the rally and show people how cool this is, or maybe even do a live demonstration depending on timing. And then we would subscribe before that trial ends in order to get this special price. Hopefully by then we're going to have some funds from founding members in our bank to pay for this thing. The cost is $3,800 for the first year and $4,320 for every year following, unless they raise their prices, which I think they said they can't raise them more than 5 or 10%. Is what they told us. The good news, I think, is that I don't think we need a full website in addition to this. So the money we had in Gordon's spreadsheet for website will absorb this. It does mean more money, I think, in the year 2, year 3, year 4 that we would just have to figure out how to cover. But that's a year away. So we'll see how it goes. Knock on wood, everything pans out. Yeah, so I guess what I would love from this committee is an approval to move forward with this, or voice of any concerns about moving forward with this in preparation for the rally.
Yeah.
Show of hands or thumbs up.
I make a motion, we move forward.
Cool. All thumbs up. I'm not very good at, what is that, Richard's rules of
Roberts.
Rules
Yeah.
of Order.
Roberts. I never mastered those, even though I was a 4-H kid, but that was a long time ago.
Seems like there's a
Okay.
budding secretary there in Lynn Floyd.
Yeah.
Okay, motion passed. Let's move on. Renee, back to you, and Robin, I think, for kind of an update on that, what you've been working on for the features and benefits.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like I should be included in that. Renee has done so much work on this, so.
No, Robin, you were there with us, and we had several people talking through this. I'm not going to go through the document because you have it in the email. It's in the folder. But one of the things that and I'll frame it again, just for those of you who haven't been in the smaller meetings, um, you know, I think in the last big meeting, there was the concern about, well, what am I really getting from this? What's the benefit for me? Like that doesn't already exist with my relationship with Wiley or with, just the good relationships I already have among the community. So we thought, well, we've got the pricing document, we've got the name and purpose document, but how can we really pull this out? So what we did is it's a similar format. I've just kind of called out, these are the things that kind of help us with our three areas: community, TLC brand, and giving back um, from that purpose document. And what I did is just kind of tried to list those, what's the feature, what's the benefit, how does this work? And the notes are just for us. And I thought it'd be really helpful, as we discussed in our last couple of meetings, how about we really call out, this is an enhanced benefit. It's something a little bit better than what we get from Wiley or with our relationships. And then here are the new benefits. Like these are things that don't exist. And we're creating those. So like, I think maybe we could reorganize this to pull out like the new benefit around the online community. I think that's a really good new benefit. I don't think you could call LinkedIn as an existing benefit there because it really just doesn't do much for us. Another new benefit would be learning pods for like CMITs and special interests. That doesn't exist right now. So if you'd kind of go through that, and please forgive the formatting, I just can't figure out what's going on with those big white spots there. But mentoring, and Robin has offered, she's got some good mentoring tools that eventually we could pull into things. LPI peer-to-peer coaching is new. Facilitation and coaching opportunities is new. While you might be able to get that, just from your network, it's going to be something that we're going to be able to do through Mighty Networks. So,
Renee, I had one question when I looked at this again this morning. Like the TLC Alliance Speakers Bureau and probably the like peer-to-peer mentoring, do we feel like we can promise that on year one?
those have been
or should we say this is like a future benefit that we will work towards or something like that?
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
And so you said you were mentioning, I know, the Speakers Bureau, and what was the other part?
I don't know how much it's going to, the peer-to-peer coaching. I think I was thinking, like, do you think we could do that right away? That would just take volunteers, right? To match people up.
I think so, yeah. And it could just be self-volunteering. Might not really require much of us other than to put a piece on the Mighty Network.
On Mighty Networks. Go up a little bit more. Mentoring and CMIT support. I'm thinking that might take a little while to figure out how that's going to work. But I don't know. Maybe you guys have a plan for that.
Just a thought. Maybe Renee and I could go back and put these into like phases, right? Like for 2025, early 2026, late 2026, or whatever, just to kind of show when those benefits would likely be up and running. Would that be helpful?
That would be great.
I like that.
And then my thought is we take this and we turn it into slides for the rally.
Got it. Yep. I like that.
Sounds good.
Any other comments, suggestions? Cool. Renee, thank you. You've done a heck of a lot of work on just trying to clarify and make this clear and sexy and
It's not sexy,
attractive.
but it's definitely more clear.
Unless you're a word person, then it's but it's pretty sexy.
It's subjective.
Okay. Okay, next thing was just to most of you, I think, was everyone in the pricing discussion? Everyone maybe except Rachel? No, Steve, you weren't there?
I was not there now.
Okay, so I don't know. Mike, why don't you fill everyone in on where we landed and what we talked about? Would you mind? You're on mute.
You're still on mute. We can send somebody over real quick if you'd like.
I'm the closest.
What's the tech line?
Yeah.
Maybe that should be one of our benefits, is a tech person for all of us.
Lisa, is there a document on this? Because I'm.
Well, let me just say here, I'll just fill everyone in quickly and then Mike can add some color to it. Basically, we ended up at $9.95 for founding members and $3.95 for standard membership, with the possibility of adding on next year's rally for a discounted price of $400. So that's our plan. We did think it was a good idea to offer scholarships at some point. If we hear from people, I'd really like to be a part of this, but I can't afford it. But we thought we should hold off on making that offer until we see like what the uptake is at first. Same for maybe like we talked about an associate member price that's much less expensive, that only has a portion of the benefits. But again, we think let's come out of the chute with these two offers and see what happens and make adjustments from there. Is that
so
fair?
we're not doing the $7.95?
Well, I just think there was some confusion in that when I sent it out to the review team, that they thought that was like a different level. So I just want to make it clear when we present this that there is that $7.95 option, which is the standard join fee plus $400 for next year's conference. Like you're prepaying for next year's conference and getting $100 off because of that. So I just want to clarify, it's not a different membership.
And again, the only color I would add to it is this was directly related back to the benefits that we looked at. And we were trying to answer the question that Renee raised. What's different? What's new? Why would I want to join? And then directly back to what's the value? What's that worth to us? And I think at least as I recall, the only discussion that really got a little interesting, I think there was a lot of agreement all the way through. But at the lower levels, we had quite a bit of discussion about how do we categorize that? And obviously, being the old guy in the room here, if we're going to offer a reduced price for junior members, then I suggested that we ought to have a reduced price for senior members. We have to be careful about what we're doing on special pricing. And I think we hit upon a fairly good point here, a place to start. But yeah, I don't know. I'll answer any questions. I mean, it was a spirited debate. It's like, I think a couple of us said, yeah, I don't think I'll be joining at that rate. So that opened up a good discussion.
I mean, one of the keys is, and we don't know this yet, I think we know some of the people, but how many founding members are we going to have? How many people are going to pony up for that? That's maybe we do a survey and find out, because that's going to be our main revenue generator as far as the price per seat. So that would be interesting.
Gordon, that's a one-time shot though, right?
It's the first year.
Yeah.
It's the first year, and then there'll be a discount off of that for the next years. Yes.
And that founding member includes the conference?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we should, set a goal, like coming out of the rally, like if we can get 30 founding members, like if that's our goal, our financials going to look pretty good. If we can get 45 standard members, we're well on our way to
Yeah.
being in the black.
If we got 30 and we got 45 standard with conference, it would put us
Well,
at
I thought of like between the two of them, we kind of don't know what the split would be, but let's say
let's do 20 and 20. That's 70 people total. That's 30 founding members, 20 standard with conference, 20 standard without conference. That would bring us, we'd be about 16,000 short.
Well, that's not good.
I guess we need to hit that middle one.
Yeah, I mean, that's more along the lines. So this pretty much is right on. If we got 25 founding members, 40 of the standard with conference, and 35, that brings us to 100 total members. And again, the more we convert into the founding members, the less we would need on the others. But yeah, it's a substantial number of people.
Yeah, and again, I'm feeling a little bit. I've been power washing all morning, so I'm a little bit.
Oh God, I did that last week.
Yeah. But as I recall, I mean, the founding member is a one-time fee to become a founding member, while the other prices here are annual fees.
Well, so everybody's going to have to pay a renewal, even the
Right.
founding members.
Right.
We just haven't set what the renewal fee would be yet until
Correct.
we sort of get an idea of how many people we're talking about, what our expenses look like. So
and we're not going to do a conference, an in-person conference the second year. It's going to be virtual, most likely, based on what at least I've been privy to. So that's going to lower the expenses. So that's you can't include another $400 into the renewal fee because we're not doing the in-person.
Good.
Good point.
So there are a lot of what ifs here that we just don't fully know yet. But I think once we have this rally, we'll get a better understanding of what it could look like.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay, any concerns with moving forward with the pricing as is? Thumbs up?
Can we bundle it with a power wash from Mike? Might get us more attendance.
Well, I did think, Gordon, from the number of my neighbors going, "Hey, do mine next."
There's a business there.
I may be joining the detailing club.
There you go. Modeling the way.
Modeling the way.
Okay, I'm going to turn things over to Steve, who, upon request from last meeting, has been doing some work on kind of our board of director process and what that looks like so that we can also present that at the rally, which would be kind of the big first step of actually forming this nonprofit. So Steve, you want to share what you've been up to?
Yeah. So our committee, which I'm still not sure what we're called, but we were kind of logistics, finance. I'm calling us now kind of governance, oversight. What we've been working on has been difficult to get everyone together, but we've been throwing documents around and sharing ideas. We now have what I would call preliminary articles of incorporation and bylaws. They need more work and probably don't want to do too much more work until we actually have a board that can take ownership of it and maybe work with an attorney to flesh it out, right? They're probably 70, 80% correct, right? Ready. But what we've more recently been working on is a strategy for the structure of the board and how do we kind of get things booted up with the first set of directors. Lisa, do you want to share what I just sent you?
Sure.
Yeah. So what we're going to see is kind of an excerpt of the bylaws. And I've changed a few things around and added a little more information, but it's still very bare bones. I really just want to get this group to look at it and give us some feedback on, is this the right direction or not? So you can see in section 1 is powers and responsibilities, very generic. It just basically says the board of directors are going to be responsible for everything, setting policy and overseeing activities, managing financial affairs and such, and that they will determine if any paid staffing needs and create the job descriptions, hire, and manage any staff that we're going to have. As far as the composition of the board, what we're proposing is a minimum of 5, maximum of 7 to be a working board, and kind of in these positions, and I try to put a little more definition around all the vice president's positions, and you can think of them as maybe leading committees in these areas. So finance, treasury, the secretary could also be responsible for overall governance and future nominating committees that we need to have. Someone in charge of membership, someone over community building, activities, events, so forth, someone over the knowledge sharing, we call it mentorship, with maybe, because we've talked about having this repository of information, so maybe that's where that responsibility sits. And then another position we called research and content development, because we said that's an area we thought we might be working in. So maybe that's another committee. So let me stop there and see what everybody thinks. Does it seem right? 7 the right number? Anybody think it's too few or too many?
No.
I think you get a good enough diversity with 7 members.
Okay. Yep. That was kind of the idea. And then you can see the next statement says additional non-voting advisors may be added by the board as deemed necessary for special governance. So if we wanted to have someone from Wiley kind of as a special advisor,
Jim or Barry could be that.
Trademark, that kind of stuff, Jim or Barry, or maybe someone who's, retired or emeritus, something like that, who's on the board but maybe not voting, kind of thing. But that the board could kind of decide that. In terms of nominations and elections, we said that any member could nominate themselves or any other active member as a candidate for a board position. The secretary would convene a nominating committee as needed. So maybe not annually, but as we need to fill a position. And then the election process would be directed by the board. The directors would be elected by active members at the annual meeting, or whenever we call, I guess the president could call an election when he needs to. And then terms of office would be set at 2 years, may be reelected at the end of their term. The board can fill vacancies between elections, and then the directors can serve a maximum of 3 terms. That's a very general, basic overview of how the board would be structured and filled. So I'll give you a minute, let that sink in and see if you have any questions or comments. Silence is acceptance. Good, Michael.
My only comment is this is not nearly as sexy as that.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. What do you expect from an engineer? So I run on the keep it simple, stupid principle.
Hey, that's what those charts are for.
Yeah, that's right. Now we have some discussion about how do we boot up? How do we get things started the first time? So my recommendation, I didn't write this down, but my recommendation is let's create an ad hoc nomination committee, a nominating committee that can work on that process, which would be to collect nominations and then set up the election process. I think we need maybe 3 people for that nominating committee. I don't think it should be very big. I think it should be pretty small. People that can be trusted to do it properly and to set it up with the right governance to make sure it's done properly. So, and
would you be willing to lead that committee, Steve?
I'd be happy to do that. Whether we convert our committee into a nominating committee, or if there's other people who want to get involved, I'm open to ideas.
I think
my wonder is how quickly can we move? Mm-hmm. I'm the D in this group, right? Always trying to get us to a decision and to get going. So I was wondering, could we collect nominations within 30 days of the rally?
After the rally?
After the rally.
After the rally.
After the rally. Yeah. So nominations for the board would happen 30 days after the rally. The election could take place 45, 60 days after the rally. And then I wondered, like, if we form the nominating committee out of this pre-launch team, or do we invite people to be part of it at the rally so we don't seem like we're just too insulated?
Great point.
I like that idea. Because then
So,
like it's a smaller thing that somebody can participate in. This might be, it might be somebody from the review team, for example, but that it's a smaller role, a short-term role, but somebody who really is interested in this might want to be involved in that nominating committee.
Sure.
So maybe we put forward Steve as our representative, and then we see if we can get one or two other people from the community.
And should we have a nomination form available at the rally?
Yeah, so my thought there was to, and tell me what y'all think of this. I was considering doing all this in something like Qualtrics, where we send out a link and there's a form in Qualtrics that you can go and do your nominate whoever you want to for each of these positions. We collect those, and then from that we create the ballot again in Qualtrics, send it back out for voting. That's my initial thought. Again, keep it simple.
And then Steve, how would it work if I nominate Renee and Renee says, I don't want to do this?
So don't nominate her until you know that she's
say
willing
yes
to accept, or we could as a committee send it back out and say, if you don't want to accept the nomination, you can let us know. We'll take your name off, kind of thing.
Or just don't tell Renee that you did it.
Yeah. But I think we would encourage people to check with others and see if they would accept the nomination before you put their name up.
Yeah, it occurs to me we might be surprised that there could be a lot more interest in this than we might think right now.
It's possible,
yeah. Especially younger members that want to become active in the community. It's a great opportunity.
A lot of people might not realize how much time has already been devoted to this.
I think that's exactly
right. So can we go back to the 7 positions and first let's say, do those look right? Or do we need to modify those at all? Because I think the next step is going to be to create some kind of small description of what each of those means.
Yeah, I was thinking about it in terms of the documents I've been working on, and I'm just thinking, okay, so the first 4, those all make total sense. And then community building, activities, events, I like that. Knowledge sharing and mentorship. I'm not quite sure if those go together or not. Because the knowledge sharing could be just a back office kind of, I'm putting documents up to,
that was my thought when I created that, was who's going to manage that.
But then if I'm in charge of mentoring, that might be something a whole lot bigger.
Right.
So research.
But if the knowledge sharing is part of the executive director, whoever is paid staff, if that's part of what they're doing, then I'm not sure. Where does that responsibility fall?
Yeah. I don't know that I have the answer yet, but that's the one thing that stood out to me.
Yeah. The other option is we elect 6 vice presidents and let them fight it out and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
The only one that I had, and again, I don't feel strongly about this, but I wondered if there isn't some crossover between knowledge sharing, mentorship, and research and content development.
Perhaps, yeah.
There's also, and it might be in your community building activities and events or membership, is to really have an advancement committee, how to get more members. I guess that's in membership, because I think that's going to be a vital role.
Yeah. Very good.
I think we solved world hunger.
I think we could noodle on it for a bit.
I nominate Gordon for that.
And within a few weeks, we can settle on what the positions are going to be. How do we want to set up the ballots and so forth?
Steve, I think it looks great. I mean, it's a great foundation to work from.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the board can change it up if they want to. Once they're elected, they can.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we could make these as our suggested
Yeah.
categories, but know that as the board convenes,
Sure.
they may adjust them some.
Do you see anything missing that's critical? This was just first blush for me. You can also see I noted the first three as officers, so they would be official officers for the organization in terms of signing official documents and things like that. We don't need everybody to be an officer, but we need at least probably those three.
And would maybe that would be the officer's responsibility to be kind of liaisons to Wiley, to Jim and Barry? Do we need to have a named position for that?
I would say that probably should be the president, should be the official
Yeah, I agree.
liaison.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask, and just because I used the terms president, vice president instead of chair, vice chair, I don't know that it matters, but that was just my personal preference.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it matters, but I am more familiar with chair and things like that.
A lot of people are. Yeah. But some people don't like the word chairman. So.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm wondering, kind of thinking about succession planning, is maybe we have a maximum of 9 members and have 2 members at large that can vote, particularly since we're starting out. I mean, let's just say everybody, does their full 3 terms or whatever, then we basically, they're going to feel like they're starting all over because you won't have any of that organizational knowledge.
So one of the other suggestions is to work on staggered terms to where we could have half the board only elected for 1 year and the other half is elected for 2 years. That's another thing we could build in right now.
That's not a bad suggestion. I mean, my experience is limited, but it seems to me the boards I'm on, that tends to be what they do.
Yeah.
Staggering is definitely, yeah.
Kind of expected there's going to be people rolling off at, randomly, and over time, we'll get some staggered positions. But if we don't want to take that chance, we could start off that way, boot it up that way.
Another option, and you might have already discussed this, is president-elect. Like a year before the other person's term is up, there's an election for the next president, and they have that year to get up to speed.
That could be one of the VP positions as president-elect. Yeah.
Yep.
So here's what I'd like to ask you all to do is I'm going to be out of the country for 2 weeks. So after I get back, I want to pick this up again. So to take some time to think about it, send me your thoughts and comments. Maybe Lisa can send this out to everybody. And sorry.
Yep, I just agreed.
Okay, yeah, and then mark it up, send it back, and when I get back, June 3rd.
What date are your backs? Okay,
June 3rd is when we land, so it'll be June 4th before I get back into hopefully normal operation. Start looking it over. So by the week of the 9th, I guess, or whatever that is, that next week, I'll be ready to hit the ground running again.
Okay. And then I'll just coordinate with you, Steve, about what we say at the rally about this, what we share once you're back. Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you for
very good. Yes.
all that good work.
All thanks to my committee.
Great stuff.
All the
Very
support.
good work. Thank you.
And thanks to AI. Let me tell you, a lot of this. I just asked AI to send me articles of incorporation, and it's like, bam, there it is. It's like fill in the blanks, and it looked great. So.
Okay, so last item was just getting ready for the rally, kind of what we need to do. Time's a ticking, right? How many days, Rachel?
Yes, don't remind me.
What'd you say? I didn't catch it.
Don't remind me. We've got a month and a half
Okay,
between
a month.
all the things.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted, Rachel, just to clarify is our time allotment. So I had emailed you about this, that what I'm seeing on the draft agenda you sent me was we have 35 minutes on day one, which I'm thinking that is when we'll present this opportunity and invite people to consider joining our TLC Alliance. Then do we have some time on day 2 that you're going to give us?
I think we do. So then our next step, we met this morning and talked about the sum of things. And so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen so people can see. Please don't share this because we're still working on it. And so we said, so giving this to Jim and Barry here, this part, and this being incredibly important, and thinking about polarities, and then moving to this section, we really invested some time here. And I think that so Jim's concern is relevancy. Jim and Barry's concern is how does the leadership challenge stay relevant for the future. So Chris Nell is going to email people, get in touch with people. Some of the people on the call will get an email from Chris or a phone call from Chris on how the leadership challenge has been relevant in the past. And then Michelle and I are going to focus on the present and relevancy for the future. And I think that's where it's a beautiful fit. So we've got, we're at 2.5 hours here out of the 4 hours. We've got some playtime, but I want to get Jim's thoughts. So we decided today for values, not to go down this rabbit hole, to keep that for something for the future. Because it's just going to take too much time. And the same thing is true with what we believe, but the focus on relevancy, and then having the call to action. In fact, related to relevancy, they said, yeah, we probably should consider a call to action as being a committee on relevancy and keeping it together. So I think this committee will fold in. So we're only going to get names for people on who to, but it's a perfect setup for the call to action to join the nonprofit in total. Those that are on the fence that care about relevancy of the leadership challenge for the future, you might find a place for them, but I want to I want Jim to see this and bless it. I mean, he's blessed all of this so far. And then I told him we were going to work on this today and then get his thoughts on what he wants. Cause I know he wants breakouts. He has a specific, he agreed to talk about his dreams for the future, which is the most exciting thing in enlisting the next generation. So I really want to give him, the opportunity I want to make sure it's in line with his thoughts. Does that make sense? So bottom line, don't know the time. So bottom line, I know you're a D. Bottom line is we're 2.5 hours into a 4-hour session here. So will there be time? Probably more than 15 minutes. But I think once we start having the discussion for the future, they go hand in hand.
Okay. And do you think a Q&A session is appropriate? And I'm asking everyone, so if we do 35 minutes of presentation on what this is, we have representatives at the coffee chats, I think they're called. We would make sure people on this committee are at those coffee chats in case this comes up again. And then it's really just an open Q&A chance for all of us to answer their questions on day 2. Do you think that would work?
Yeah, I think it would work. The one thing that if I was not aware of what was going on behind the scenes and I get presented this at a rally, my first question is Wiley just stopping? That's the mindset I would probably have at that moment in time. So just to be cognizant of that.
So we've invited Wiley, and we had, so Lisa and I were with Wiley this week to ask them about partnership. And I was very candid. I believe in radical candor. I care, so therefore I challenge in a caring way. And that is, will we truly be partners with you in the future? And I think I asked it almost in that style. And I think their answer is yes. We just don't know how. And I think there's some trepidation from some past history. Don't know. But I was open in saying, I've heard as a newbie, never worked for Wiley. As a newbie, I've heard negativity. My hunch, my gut, my intuition is there's some hurt feelings because in the past, Jim and Barry would embrace and have the kumbaya and have the fireside chat and really appreciate the master's opinions. However, today it's like cut off. And so I don't think they realize that. And I think they need to digest it. The vice president was lighting up like a firefly and thanking for the radical candor. And just, I could see the trust was built just in that conversation, because I don't think they've ever heard this. I think Jim has been the person that they've been going to, and just, and he's been, so anyway, I feel like Wiley will be a partner in the future. I can't speak for Wiley. I don't want to box them in. And I asked them just to come in partnership with hope for the future and with some vision. I did challenge them on permissions. I don't like the word permissions. It's triggering. I like a memorandum of understanding, so we understand one another and what our roles and obligations and expectations are. I've been doing that for more than 20 years, 25 years. And let's create a memorandum of understanding in this, and let's just pull it all together and make sure we understand one another. So I did suggest that, but it wasn't a hard sell. It was just a soft pedal. I think
my hope is that they will have sent that document before we get together at the rally. So we'll have a sense of what they're looking for. And I think, to your point, Gordon, having a slide that says how TLC Alliance will work with Wiley or relate to Wiley or cooperate with Wiley will be important for our 35-minute presentation.
And also, Gordon, one more thing. I told Wiley, so I teach polarities all the time, and it's all about the and. So I don't want it to be or us or Wiley. I want to be work together in partnership. And so I showed her, we're doing the polarities on the front end, we're doing it on the back end, and we're considering our relationship with Wiley in an and partnership. So that was a lot for them to digest. I feel like the vice president we were eye to eye. I think, they need to figure out what they want to do with that information.
Cool.
Hope that's helpful.
Yeah. All right, it's time for the arm wrestling. Let's go. Renee, you're on mute. You're very animated, but you're on mute.
Yeah, so in that conversation with Wiley, and then I think we can talk more about the presentation, but there's a lot of people who have a lot of history. For example, I mean, some people don't even know that the Wiley held forums and summits, and they did it for 10 plus years. And so I think we have agreements. I have an agreement that I did with Wiley in 2016, 2017, whatever it was. I don't know if those agreements hold or what's the status of those, because they don't really communicate that to me. So if you want more information on those agreements, I'm happy to share that.
Was that a global training partner agreement, or it was when you guys did learning events?
No, it was not. It's the partner agreement. So you don't have to be a global training partner to have an agreement with them.
Yeah.
I have a GTP agreement.
Yeah.
Those are ancient. I'm surprised the paper's not yellow.
Yeah, I don't know if they're enforcing it this year. I haven't heard anything from them on it. I think we had to do X number of dollars with them. I got an exception because we weren't doing public workshops. But yeah, it didn't really mean anything except for us being able to put the global training partner logo up.
Yeah.
It just seems to me too. I think we have a lot of room here to play with the idea that we're not moving into their territory. We're creating something that doesn't exist right now.
Territory that they've abandoned in a way.
Well, yeah, I don't know as if they would have an interest in doing it long term. I think I think the practitioners are much more positioned to do what we're set out to do. And again, I know it's not popular, but I tend to think of Wiley as being my supplier, not my.
Well, and what we kept hearing over and over from both Katie and Trisha was they appreciate our enthusiasm. Like, they've noticed that we are passionate about this product and this brand. And I suspect that there's going to be, hopefully, a little bit more outward showing appreciation for that enthusiasm.
Katie's a very enthusiastic person to begin with, so to have her behind our movement here is a good thing, because she's an influencer without a doubt.
Awesome.
Okay, so what I thought I would do is just really in the next week or two, 3, start kind of working on the slides and sharing them with people, and asking specific questions if we still haven't decided on things, to try and get that squared away. And yeah, just get ready. I think the next big step is to make sure we have everything we need ready for that rally. And with that in mind, I would suggest we move up our meeting schedule to every 2 weeks, I suspect. So if we meet on the 30th and this
I'm out of the country also.
13th. Okay. The 30th and the 13th would give us 2 more gatherings before the rally. I know some of you are out of town, but we'll focus on the areas that you're not part of during those meetings. Does that sound okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Rachel, does that work with your schedule? If we do the 30th and the 13th, do we want to pick times right now that work for most people?
This has been good times. The 3 o'clock works fine Eastern time for me.
That's fine.
That work for you, Rachel? Since you're the Zoom person?
It does on the 13th. 90% sure I can move something on the 30th. So I'm 90% sure.
Okay. Okay, so we'll shoot for noon Pacific, 3 Eastern on the 30th and 13th to keep this moving forward.
Sounds good.
Can I bring up one other item?
Yes.
So I was thinking about, for both this and for the rally, would it be beneficial? I know it's LinkedIn is ish, but would it be beneficial to go into that Leadership Challenge LinkedIn page and do like a little bit of an advertisement for the rally and
Do it everywhere.
do it everywhere? What do you mean?
Facebook, we could put it on Facebook.
I can't put it on Facebook, but somebody else could put it on. I could ask Angie to put it on the Leadership Lounge. Okay, and if I were to do that, can I just pull from your registration form?
Take it.
Okay.
Do we have any other collateral, or it's just that because I'll post as well. I'm happy to.
Go for it. If you want to. So I had a vision for a schedule of communication, and so this one was you missed it. Don't forget. The next one is the agenda. The next one is we're going to have pre and post opportunities to talk about all the cool things, and so it's like a little bit of wow, it's coming. So there's a whole true schedule of communication, but I don't have any marketing materials. But if you want to put it on LinkedIn and yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool. And
is the last one going to be, oh, you were a loser, you missed it?
We have one more chance. So it's 1 week away, I think, is the last one. And then because Nell was saying today, we need to rectify the problems with the registration. So I said, no, that's way in the future. That's not now. We'll do that eventually. Here's who we have on Zoom. Here's who we have, just making sure that everything's clear with everybody.
Awesome.
How's it going so far, Rachel? We get a lot of people signing up?
No, I think we've got about 20.
Oh, really? Okay.
Signed up, but we've lost some. I don't know what's going on with Zoom. So for example, Renee was the first, and I remember her beautiful email saying, I'm the first. And so she went and did both, and it's gone. Michelle was right there with her, and her Zoom was gone. And Chris, they did the testing ahead of time. and they were gone. And so it's like, okay, if you paid, then I know you did something. So I actually at this point have more paid than I have on Zoom, which is scary. But I still need the information so that we can see who's coming to pre and post potentially and who we can leverage.
Okay. Are you going to post that somehow so we can make sure we think we're registered? We want to make sure. Okay. Yeah.
That was Chris's point.
I think I am.
Not yet.
Well, now I was just looking. So on my calendar, I do have an invite.
Good.
So I registered, and then I can't remember if it
I
prompted
don't even
me
think
to
it's
add it
showing
to my
you.
calendar.
Yeah, I think you're one of the ones that it's Zoom did not, even though Zoom gave you an invite, it's not listing you as registered on Zoom. I don't know. I remember the struggle.
Yeah.
So the struggle continues, but we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. I mean, PayPal will tell us between the two, we'll get it together.
Well, go invite all your TLC friends.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm also just setting the stage. Like I see after the rally, especially for people who weren't at the rally, we're gonna have to do like individual outreach to recruit members. So get your cell phone ready to start calling all your friends.
Yeah, I was just thinking too, also of all those people who volunteered for committees after last time. Maybe we can make sure we somehow reach out to them or
Exactly. Yeah.
for the rally. And because our purpose is, I mean, of course, we want the rally to be successful always, but also the more successful it is, the more people we have there, the more likely we're to get people to join us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Okay.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks,
See you
everybody.
soon.
Work, gang.